Welcome back. In this and the next video, I would like to set up this screen here where we have a text view at the top, then an image view, then we have this progress bar with another text view. So this whole thing has to be a linear layout where items are next to each other. And then we have 4 buttons which are not buttons. I'm using text views here, which will be treated like buttons in the sense that we can click on them. So here, for example, you can see then they are selected. And then we have this actual button at the bottom. And you can see I can scroll here because this entire surrounding view is going to be a scroll view. Okay, so everything that we have inside of the screen is inside of this scroll view, so that we can have as many items as we want, as long as, well, we can scroll. That is going to be fine. So let's go ahead and implement that, and you can of course try to build that by yourself. I told you the names of everything that you need to use, so you could really just try and build this. It won't be easy, but if you give it some time, you will be able to build this, and this will really catapult your knowledge of XML and how to create a UI dramatically. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, this is our activity quiz questions XML file that I want to jump over to. So this one here. And as I stated, this will be a scroll view. Okay, so let's use scroll view here. And then I want to make sure that my scroll view is going to fill the entire viewport. So I will set the property fill viewport to true. Okay, so inside of this scroll view, that's where I'm going to have a linear layout where items are going to be on top of each other. So it's basically going to be the same thing as we've seen before, where we just have a linear layout that then has everything else inside of it. Okay, so this linear layout here, I'm going to match parent in terms of width, so the entire screen width, and then it's going to wrap the content, so it's only going to take as much space as it requires. On top of that, I want to make sure that everything is centered, so the gravity will be towards the center and the orientation will be vertical. So items are going to be on top of each other. And then finally, I will add a little bit of padding on the highest level so that everything is has a little bit of distance to the border or to the edge of the screen. Okay, so inside of here, I will then have a text view, and this text view will match parent in terms of width and wrap content in terms of height. And I'm going to give it an ID because I want to be able to access this text view. So I'm going to call it TV question. Okay, so what else do I want to have for this text view? Well, a little bit of margin towards all directions of 10 density pixels. Then it should have the text in the center. So I'm going to gravitate the text to the center. So if you look at it, the question is in the center, right? So let's gravitate towards the center. We of course need to override the default text size to 22, for example. You can of course use your own values here. And the text color will be the grayish color that we used before. So 633A43. And finally, for my tools, so only for the designer here, for example. So you see there's no text here in the designer. And I'm going to set text for the designer only. So this text will not appear when we are actually running the application. This will only appear in my tools. So here, what country does this flag belong to? And then that's pretty much it. Okay, so this is going to be my main text view, and that's the text that it will display. So here, what country does this flag belong to? And it's centered or gravitated towards the center, which is exactly what I wanted. So on both sides, on the linear layout side, as well as on the text that is inside of the text view itself as well. Okay, so then we have this image view. All right, so how can we create an image view? Well, by using the image view tag here. So the width will be wrap content. So it only will be as wide as it requires, and the same goes for the height. So I need to have an ID here because I need to set the value. Of course, I'm going to call this IV_image, IV standing for image view. Then I'm going to add a little bit of margin towards the top. So 16 density pixels always seems like a good idea. And then I will add something called content description. So this is not something that will be displayed, but for people that cannot see, for example, this is going to be helpful because it's going to tell them what is the content. So this will be the quiz image, for example. Okay, so this will be the, well, something that will be read for people that cannot see if they are using tools that allow them to read items on the screen. Okay, and then finally, I'm going to set an image for the tools only. So here, I'm going to say that by default, I want to use the German flag here. And that is only going to be for my designer. So you see here, we are using this German flag, but as I said, it's only for the designer. So if we run this application, we will see that it's still going to be pretty much empty. So you see there's nothing in here because all of the details that we have added so far are only in the tools. Okay, they are empty items so far. Okay, then as you see here, we have this progress bar. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a progress bar like so. And the width, I'm going to set that to 0 dp. The height, however, I'm going to wrap its content. So we saw earlier when we want to put something at 0 dp for any given direction, we need to give it a weight because otherwise it will not be displaying correctly. So I'm going to set the weight to 1, and then I'm going to set the maximum value to, for now, 9 because we have 9 questions, and the min height. So I'm going to say, okay, well, you should wrap your content, but I want you to be at minimum 50 density pixels. And then the progress property is going to be set to 0. So this progress bar, you could see, well, has a width of 0 right now. And that is because I need to put it into a linear layout. Let me add another linear layout that will be now surrounding this progress bar, because I said we have this progress bar and then this little text view here on the side. So we need to make sure that we use both of them. So here the width will be match parent and the height will be wrap content. So it should only be as high as it requires. Okay, so this will be the linear layout with the progress bar. Now the linear layout, I want it to be gravitating towards the center vertically. Okay, and a little bit of margin towards the top is also a good idea here, so that it's not going to be too cramped, too close together. And then the orientation will be horizontal. Why horizontal? Well, because items are next to each other. So usually we use vertical all the time where items are on top of each other. Now this time, this progress bar and this text view, they're next to each other. So we are using the horizontal key here. Now, I'm going to set a style for this progress bar, and the style that I want to use is going to be progress bar style horizontal. Well, it seems like it's not existing, so let me put that in here. Let me show you how it's going to actually look like. So there's this under Android attributes, there's this progress bar style horizontal. Okay, this attribute, which is a horizontal progress bar style. This is a horizontal progress bar. So the progress bar will not be vertical, but it will be horizontal. So that's what we are styling here. We're defining that's how we want it to be. And then I'm going to use the indeterminate value of false. So what is this indeterminate? Allows to enable the indeterminate mode. In this mode, the progress bar plays an infinite looping animation. So I don't want it to constantly animate this progress because we're not downloading anything, right? We're just fixing the progress. So it's going to be, let's say, at 1 out of 10 or whatever. Okay. And we see here max is 9 and progress is at 0. So this is how it's going to look like right now. But what if we change that to, let's say, 5? Then we see, okay, now it's semi done. So the progress bar is at 50%, well, 5 out of 9, not 50%, but it's actually something like 65% or so. Or 56%. So that's a progress bar. And next to it, I said I would have a text view. And by next to it, I mean, of course, the item that will be right on next to it, because its orientation is horizontal for the parent linear layout. So the linear layout that surrounds the elements. So here, the width will be wrap content and the height will also be wrap content. Now this text view should be gravitating towards the center as well. So I want at least the text of the text view should be gravitating towards the center. I will add a little bit of padding so that it's going to be thicker inside. So you can see here, I want it to be a little bit of space. You see here, well, you can't see it very well because it doesn't have a background color, but there is some distance inside of it, which is this padding. And then I will add a text size of 14 SP, as well as the text that will be displayed in the tools settings will be 0 out of 9, for example. So let's see how that's going to look like, and we can see that this is it. Okay, 0 out of 9. Okay, now let's give this text view an ID because we will need to be able to access it later on. So I'm going to call this one TV Progress. And accordingly, this progress bar itself, we also need to be able to access it. So let's give it an ID of progress bar, like so. And now you also see the progress bar has a weight of 1, and this text view doesn't have a weight at all, which just means that it's just going to take the rest of available, well, just going to take as much space as it needs, and the progress bar is going to take the rest of the space. And you see there is an edge here, and that is because of the padding that I have added on the outer linear layout. So these 16 SP that we have here. So if we look at the designer here, this is the style that we are getting. So here, what country does this flag belong to? The flag, the progress bar, and that's it. So that's it for this video. In the next one, we're going to finish the UI. So see you there.